we just have so many players, and it's fun to watch IU do his thing, and Purdy shut some haters up. So it's nice to be on a really good team.
From the Chris Wessling Podcast Studio, it's Around the NFL, the Monday show for the first time ever, the day after the big day. Dan Hanzus here, Gregg Rosenthal, Marc Sessler. And when you want to launch a new property and you need the charisma that will just send you through the roof and beyond, you book Nick Bosa Soundbites.
It's that simple.
That made me want to run through a wall as Nick Bosa goes, at least. That was like him talking some trash. I like that he was wearing a backpack, too.
He was ready to go, that Nick Bosa. And, yeah, I think that's good. This is the show. You have the Sunday flagship program that give you a detailed rundown of everything that happened on Sunday. Monday's show, this show's one of 3 programs that we have coming your way, one of them for NFL Plus. The Monday Night Football recap coming later tonight. This show is just getting you caught up to date on everything that's happened after the games went down, after the games, after the pressers, overnight, and then anything that's come across the wire as we tape in early afternoon on the West Coast. And that was, of course, the star defender of the Niners, Nick Bosa, after the 49ers waxed Marc Sessler's Pittsburgh Steelers in the field formerly known as Heinz. So not many teams will enter week 2 flying as high as the 49ers.
I will say this, though, because I love what he said, and I like that he just owns the fact that he's on a well-coached, great team, and that's much more enjoyable than other scenarios. But how many haters, who was hating on Brock Purdy? I think there was a lot of wait and see on Brock Purdy.
I see what he's saying. He was saying there's doubt. There's a little bit of this idea, who the 7th-round pick, small sample size, blows out his elbow, kind of a little bit of a Cinderella story. All right, now reality might hit this year, and he looked exactly the same.
Right. I just see doubters,
If you ain't
cool.
got no haters, you ain't
Haters,
popping.
I don't remember. He's a likable character.
He's a Bosa. Of course, half his sentences have hater.
Well, all right, that's
oh, you're a hater. I'm a hater. No, that guy's a hater.
That's all the explanation needed. We're good. It's a
vocab. It's not robust.
Okay.
Anything, Greg, on that?
No, I think that was so well said. I can't top it.
So, all right. We're going to go through everything. Let's start with injuries. It's injury corner. It's a little of a bummer way to start, but it's a reality coming out of Sundays.
That's what Mondays are.
What's that?
That's what the pieces we're picking up on Monday. When I don't know why we've waited a decade to start doing Monday shows. But then you get to Tuesday, it's like 860 news items because it's all follow-up on injuries, and we're doing it now.
Well, we've corrected a loophole in the system here in year 11. Let's start with the Baltimore Ravens.
Well, that's a great point, Mark.
Who not looking good for their star safety, Marcus Williams, who is in the second year of a 5-year, $70 million contract. They hit the field on Sunday thinking he's going to be a key contributor all season. And now he has a pectoral injury. He might have to undergo surgery on the issue. And if he does, John Harbaugh said Williams is consulting a doctor to weigh his options. If he does, it could be a season ender, but not certainly. But either way, he's on the shelf, Greggy.
He made such a difference last year when he was on the field, and this team just seems cursed by injuries. They're already a little thin in the secondary, but the whole idea of, okay, we're going to get Marlon Humphrey back, and then our cornerback position is not that thin, and it especially doesn't matter because we have such great safety play, quarterbacked really by Marcus Williams more than anyone, and they were a different team last year when he wasn't on the field.
Yeah, I mean, you still have Kyle Hamilton, but Geno Stone now steps in at the other safety spot. I don't know. The Ravens, I feel like they probably could have been 3 or 4 wins better in playoff trips if you take away the injuries the last couple of seasons. I mean, it's just been to your point, Greg, one of the most banged up AFC teams in a rough and tumble division.
Left tackle Ronnie Stanley, who's dealt with his own injury issues in recent years. He suffered a sprained knee. He's week to week, as is center Tyler Linderbaum, who suffered an ankle injury, also labeled week to week. So, but also, you know what? You gave Lamar all that money. Mm-hmm. He's the star of the team.
Oh, I see what you're doing.
I'm just saying, because sometimes it feels like you could sense the excuses being set up if the Ravens don't play well. Take your team through stormy, choppy waters until you can get, hopefully, healthy. We shall see. They didn't do a lot on offense in week 1, but enough to win.
Right, they get the Bengals this week, which is like an immediate. It's an immediate big
matchup. Right,
it's an immediate big game here, and you don't get J.K. Dobbins back. I'm not that worried about missing J.K. Dobbins, although he was the one chance they had to be special there. I'd be very worried about Marcus Williams being out all season and missing maybe the best 2 parts of your offensive line.
The reason why the Bengals are dangerous is because they got waxed by the Browns on Sunday, and the Browns feeling mighty good about themselves, but they're not feeling good about Jack Conklin, the right tackle. He's out for the season. A bad one, Mark, ACL and MCL tear. Instantly, that's operating table. That's see you next summer. Tough setback for a very good tackle.
Yeah, all pro level. Has been an anchor for the league's best or second best line, right up there with the Eagles. I am interested, though, because their 4th-round pick, DeJuan Jones, out of Ohio State, played more snaps, I believe, than any offensive lineman in the preseason and looked pretty good and looks like kind of a find. So it's not like you're falling off a cliff into total nothingness, but losing Conklin, I mean, they lose one other guy, suddenly the offensive line's very different.
I love looking at that guy, DeJuan Jones.
He is massive.
It's like a planet out there, but it's a shame for Conklin. Conklin's been around long enough that he had another season-ending injury back in the day, got healthy enough to where he just signed a new contract with the Browns, so he's secured financially, but that's a rough blow for him.
Who was it? Was it Wyatt Teller? Somebody had the pancake of the week.
Yeah, that was
20
Teller.
yards downfield and pancaked the defender. That's some man stuff.
It's a concern because that's what makes the Browns special, is the guys up front.
The Eagles, they had a blessed life last year. They kind of struggled and battled and got past the Patriots just barely, a little bit on that later on Sunday, and now they are dealing with some injury issues. Linebacker Nakobe Dean out multiple weeks with a foot injury. Starting linebacker Greg E.
I am not overly concerned about this. I'm a regular listener of the Birds.
Greg not concerned about any injuries.
I mean, no, I'm concerned about Nakobe Dean personally, but the whole idea of Nakobe Dean's been a little more.
You're a little cold about J.K. Dobbins, to be quite honest.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
When?
I don't know.
About
like,
4 seconds.
Yeah,
14.
it was about
4
3 minutes
so
ago.
yeah.
Like, oh, it doesn't, it's fine about J.K. Dobbins. Like, that guy is like torn up with an Achilles blow.
I wasn't saying that whatsoever.
I want you to go back.
If anything, I said he was the one
tonight.
that it was like maybe the most important
Teaching moment?
injury. Okay.
Go back and
if
listen
Greg
tonight.
would allow it to be, it might be.
Okay. I will go back and listen to this podcast.
But what were you saying about
It's
Dean?
been a while. He's just been more of an idea than a player that you've
Got it.
actually seen be a difference maker. And as a regular listener of the Birds with Friends podcast, Bo Wolf, Zach Berman, one of my favorites. I mean, Christian Ellis, this third-year player, I have a feeling has shown a little more as a player, and he'll step into the starting lineup. So I think they have a really good backup who might be even better than Nakobe.
If only you could be as generous with your opposing podcast plugs as you are with actual humans on a football.
It's not an opposing team if it's a Eagles-specific podcast.
They're all enemies to me. Better news, injury news, Anthony Richardson, he missed the end of the loss to the Jaguars with what was seen as diagnosed as a knee injury. It's a knee bruise, according to Tom Pelissero. And according to Pelissero, he will be fine. That's good. However, just something interesting. Trevor Lawrence, another high-profile draft pick, seen as face of his franchise and the opponent of Anthony Richardson in Week 1, had something to say after the game about his conversation with Tony Richardson. Nobody calls him Tony.
No.
But I think you should think about it.
Being a rookie quarterback, it's a tough spot. There's a lot of learning you have to do, and it's just every week learning and getting better. And the only thing I told him after the game was great game. He made some unbelievable plays, but just try to protect yourself. The hits add up in this league, and they're a little different than in college. So I just told him to protect himself, and I'm excited to watch his career unfold. I think he's going to be a great player, and obviously we'll see him again later in the season. But that was my only message to him: really, just protect yourself. It's a long season, and I think he's going to be a great player.
Allow me to read a little bit too much into that. For it to rise to the point where Trevor sought him out and said that to him, like, you can imagine Lawrence like watching from the sideline, just taking nasty licks. And you see the same thing with Justin Fields, another guy that uses his legs and is kind of fearless in terms of his abilities with his legs and his arms. That's part of this. And Anthony Richardson, as dynamic as he is, I thought it was well said by Lawrence there that the hits are just different here. The guys are bigger and stronger, and you got to be careful.
Yeah, and part of it is on, the scheme and Shane Steichen, but it's like that's what makes him special. And the whole league is built around protecting quarterbacks to the point where like a lot of defenders think that there's too much emphasis on that. But then Anthony Richardson, what we are going to love about watching him is he goes off into wild territories, running down the field. He had a couple runs yesterday where it's like, yes, he's huge and powerful, but like he hasn't played that much football in college at all, really. And it's like we don't really have a huge read on his long-term durability. It's like you've got these Ironman quarterbacks that no matter what, they play every week, and then if you're going to go do this with your body, it's like there's a bit of a variable factor there.
Now, I want to circle back to what Dan said about Tony Richardson.
Yes.
You know, as a Jets fan, can you think of a reason why that wouldn't be a great idea? You know? How about the legendary
Good fullback.
Tony Richardson?
He's very good.
16 years in the NFL, mostly for the Chiefs, but he did have a few with the Jets there. So that guy, he already kind of took Tony Richardson. And then I also wanted to...
So you worry about erasing the fullback. I understand that because fullbacks, it's already tough for a fullback to have a niche.
I mean, the league had 2 Cam Newtons for a while.
Right. And what do you know about the second one?
Well, no, he was overshadowed. There's no doubt.
I just mean that there's already been a football Tony Richardson. I also am curious, and I know we want this show to be fast moving, and I'm turning it into a
honk attack.
Do you want to share your exciting hot take about the facial structure of Trevor Lawrence with the audience?
Sure. I think if you want to bring his face up again, I think Trevor is in many ways aesthetically a beautiful man. Hyper masculine. Symmetrical is great jawline, cheekbones, very strong nose, character nose. But there's there's almost like a strange lack of humanity to his face. Almost like he's the creation, an AI creation of what a young franchise quarterback looks like. And maybe there's a little something jarring with this long flowing hair, the blonde, dirty blonde mane that he has
contrast.
as well.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's like a He-Man figure. And I guess I just struggle, maybe because to see something that kind of functionally perfect the way he's been designed as a human is jarring to me, a mere mortal.
I think it's like in those, certain fantasy type stories where like a statue comes to life.
That's him.
He like he's perfectly carved, and there's no argument against his higher quality looks. Like it's what you'd probably design in many
He's
ways.
a beauty.
But he looks designed kind of. But also I'm trying to compliment him. In
Who looked
sense.
was it Adonis? Who looked in the lake and froze? The old myth, the old Greek myth. Anybody?
The egotistical one, I believe. There was was
it Adonis?
Oh.
Hey, let's work on that one, Eric.
Let's get a little help on that.
But anyway, shout out to Trevor Lawrence for giving some advice to the kid. And hopefully we get 17 games of Anthony Richardson and he finishes them all. One more, J.C. Horn, Greggy. Panthers missed a lot of last year with a foot injury. He's had a wrist issue, and now he's got a hamstring issue that they're still evaluating. Obviously extremely frustrating for this kid who can't seem to get it going.
On paper, he's one of their best players, and their defense is going to have to lead them, and he just cannot stay on the field. It's very frustrating. And after watching the Panthers, like you're going to want reasons to watch the Panthers early this season, and J.C. Horn was going to be one of them.
Let's ask as we transition out of the injury seg, and let's ask the listeners. We need some type of sting for this segment or this section, which is Flotsam and Jetsam and Flotsam and Jetsam, or is it Flotsam and Jetsam and Jetsam and Flotsam?
I think it's Flotsam and Jetsam.
All right, and then
This sounds better that way.
Yeah, so Flotsam and Jetsam and Flotsam, and if somebody can come up with some type of barbershop acapella sting and send it in to what's an email that we could send it into, theatnpodcast@gmail.com.
Correct.
We would be really appreciative, and we'll send you something.
Yeah, I do have some breaking news if we could go real quick.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
He's only got one thumb technically.
No, absolutely. It was Narcissus.
Narcissus
Peered into the water, fell in love with his own reflection.
The narcissist.
And died. Died at the spring. So to the narcissist, if you're narcissistic out there, sort of floating around society, look out.
A little on the nose there, Greek mythologist.
Ouchers.
Root word, but yeah.
Yeah.
So, and Adonis was just like the mortal.
Adonis was more like just
Adonis was
physically like.
Adonis was the mortal lover of the goddess Aphrodite.
Nice
Wow.
spot. Nice spot. Kind of a Trevor Lawrence of his time.
Good get.
Wait, so if you are getting Aphrodite as a mortal, There's some things you got working in your
Absolutely. There's no question.
Just put it that way.
Yeah. It can be assumed.
You, like Trevor Lawrence, you've probably been set up very well in your life. All right. Flotsam and Jetsam, Jetsam and Flotsam. The Giants-Cowboys game, again, one of the greatest atrocities ever seen in primetime, 40-0. And we were watching from the theater here at NFL Network headquarters as Daniel Jones was getting smoked in the fourth quarter. And who were we talking about? Mooch was there.
Yeah. Chris Rose.
And we're like, what's he doing out there? And I was wondering aloud if it was one of those situations where the head coach was doing the head coach thing where he's like, I wanted to have something positive to take out of this game and roll into next week. And then Brian Daboll, facing a lot of criticism after the game, had this to say to the media.
Brian, did you ever think of taking Daniel out because he took a pretty big beating in the game?
Yeah, no. No, I was going to let him see it through there just until that last series. Try to get something positive going, Dan. We didn't have much going. Just wanted to try to get a positive drive and try to punch the ball into the end zone. But that didn't happen.
Yeah, I saw your tweet. I liked it, Greg. They put so much care. Why don't you say it?
Well, that they won't play him in the preseason. He's like, can't get hurt in the preseason, can't play a snap in the preseason, and then they just got him out there in these blowouts. What's the difference?
It's funny the difference a year makes, Mark, because last year Brian Daboll could do no wrong, and you just see how this season now starts, and he's under the spotlight for having the team in the eyes of people on the outside not prepared, embarrassed, and then not doing right by his quarterback and not protecting him. It was a mistake, but that's a very coach aspect outlook to have on things. And while we're here and while we're talking about tweets, the Twitterverse was just filled with various absurd nuggets tied to the lopsided nature of that game. Let's bring up a few of those. First, from The Athletic. No team has ever lost 40-0 or worse, lost the sack battle 7-0 or worse, lost the turnover battle 3-0 or worse, had a blocked field goal returned for a TD, threw a pick six in the same season. The Giants did it all in one game. How about Bill Barnwell? That's absurd.
Well, that 40-0 is where it really knocks a lot of teams out. Not a lot of teams have lost 40-0 or worse.
Bill Barnwell, our buddy, Giants on Sunday night against Cowboys, negative 23.8 offensive EPA. The Broncos game from the COVID year when Kendall Hinton, remember that? Played quarterback against the Saints. He was like a gunner or something. Negative 23.7 offensive EPA. And one more from Katie Sharp, who's awesome on baseball analytics. But I guess she's a Giants fan as well. Giants' 40-0 loss on Sunday is their worst shutout loss at home in franchise history. Has there ever been a bigger bury-the-ball game? I do not think so.
I can think of a year when the Browns beat the Steelers in Week 1, 1989, 51-0, and that Steelers team went on to make the playoffs. As one of the more interesting teams I've ever watched. Like, they started off terribly and grew. And if you're the coach of the year, Brian Daboll, like, cool. Last year things were kind of rolling and it was a new vibe and like Daniel Jones looked good, but it's like you've been handed like as absolute nightmare first act. How do you get yourself out of here? I would say this. One reason I think he is a good coach, all those negative things, you got him out of the way in one game.
It's a good way to look at it.
It's not dotting it week after week. Oh, we either lost the sack record 7-0 in week 2. It's like you got him out of the way.
I'd like to think, though, for over $40 million at quarterback, a 104-yard, 2-interception, 7-sack game is just not on the table. Like, there's a certain level of quarterback where that game just wouldn't happen on any level.
No, you're just rolling in it. You're a pig rolling in poop now. Because you didn't say that about Joe Burrow yesterday, and he's the highest paid player in the history of the sport.
I'm just a pig in poop. I'm more like, we're like my little tortoise.
Yes, Giants fans are saying, oh, my God. How about Geno Smith, your little hero? He struggled with the rest of the Seahawks against the Rams. Do you want to tee this one up?
Well, everyone's already probably heard this. Everyone's had their little fun of the mic'd up quarterback.
New year.
Geno Smith, reacting when Aaron Donald's coming at him.
On third down, Smith, pressure comes late, and it's incomplete. That pressure coming from Aaron Donald.
Okay, and I'm glad everyone had their fun there, but I'm also glad we've got our own podcast here because everyone thinks it's all about Aaron Donald. And no, I did check. No one asked him about this.
We cut that as a drop.
Unfortunately, no one asked him about this.
Yeah.
Hopefully someone will next time. I'm almost positive he says, "Oh my God," because he almost threw a pick six there. And as he threw it, one of the Rams defenders, which he had no idea was hiding in wait, flashes out in front of him and could have easily picked that off. And I think actually that's what he's saying, "Oh my God," at, not at that Aaron Donald is coming after. It's just a fact.
It doesn't matter why he said, "Oh my God." I'm pretty certain, no matter what the reason was, he defecated in his pants as he said.
No.
It seemed that way, but I mean, great parabolic mic work, by the way. We don't often hear what these guys are saying out in the field, and like it was, if nothing else, human. It made me like Geno a little bit more. It's like
there we go.
whether
Good
or not you
angle. Good
almost
angle.
thought you threw a pick six, you've got like one of the largest humans on the planet coming at you at the speed of a car. I mean, that's an oh my God moment.
Also, like a man of faith, it shows him to be.
Well, he is.
That's
as
probably
someone who follows him on Twitter.
we know Greg, and he follows you back. We have been well versed on this.
Let's get through this.
It's very important in his life. That's it.
Oh my God! The Raiders. How about them Raiders? They had a nice start to their season.
Another team I nailed.
A 1-point win. Well, I don't know if you'll get to that game.
All right. Well,
it's early.
It wasn't a game where I watched the Raiders and I thought magic was coming this season, but they got the win. And guess who won over their locker room in a big way? It was Jimmy Garoppolo. Here's Josh Jacobs. Man, he's a dog. Any quarterback that's willing to take a hit in a big moment to secure a win got my respect. I think is he referring to that scramble that clinched the game?
Yeah, I think he took some good shots when he was staying in the pocket too.
Here's Josh McDaniel on his new quarterback.
He's a good leader. He's won a lot of games in this league, and that I think the guys in the locker room know who they have and what this guy can do, how competitive he is. He's a very good leader. He's a great communicator. Just does what it takes to win. He doesn't care about his statistics or anything like that. It's just whatever I got to do at my position to try to help the team win, I'm going to try to do it. So, again, super happy that he's a Raider.
Josh McDaniels needed that as well. That was a nice win for Josh McDaniels.
I almost feel like Garoppolo is like his emotional support player. Like, how can I be unlikable if I've got my buddy Jimmy G next to me? That's just going to make the whole thing more likable.
Josh McDaniels still looking to find career success out of the shadow of Bill Belichick.
I mean, this guy won many Super Bowls. Let's calm down.
Yeah, well, on the Patriots,
achieved career success.
Well, hold on.
Outside the shadow of Bill Belichick.
Denver was about as big of a you copied Bill Belichick's cheating scandal, and that's how unoriginal that was. Then he was the coordinator of the Rams one year, and they were like the 31st ranked offense.
I was
like,
responding to the first part. Okay. I thought.
So let's head to Pat's corner, and things are changing. Things feel different around the Patriots now. Just a new world order. And Bill Belichick, this jumped out to me. Bill did his post-game mortem breakdown. Was asked about a decision. What was the decision that he made? I'm trying to remember.
They went for it on 4th and 17.
They went for it on 4th, and we talked about that when it was happening from the newsroom. It was 4th and 12. And they get backed up by a penalty to 4th and 17. And this is not the most high-octane offense. No. And sure enough, he throws about a 13-yard strike to Hunter Henry. Henry drops it anyway, but he was going to be smothered short of the sticks by a couple yards easily either way. Bill Belichick actually admitted he shouldn't have done it on the radio, on live airwaves. I don't remember this happening too often. Greg, you could correct me if I'm wrong. Here we go. Let's listen in.
I mean, look, there wasn't a lot of field position to be gained, so we could have punted it, probably should have punted on 4th and 17, but we're on their side of the 50. It's too long for a field goal. 4th and 17 is a lot tougher than 4th and 12.
Is the great Belichick starting to doubt himself?
Maybe it's more that he's turning over some new leaves. I noticed how he was very enthusiastic and positive, trying to cheer up Mac Jones after they scored their second straight touchdown, to the point where Mac Jones looked a little grumpy coming off the field, like he didn't celebrate it. And Belichick was like, "How come you're not celebrating, bro?" And Mac Jones just went by. And then Belichick actually followed him to the bench and is giving high fives and smiling. That to me was a different sort of Belichick moment.
I don't know.
What is happening?
I don't recall more than 0 of those. But
right, and that was in the first quarter, the second quarter of the game.
Maybe Belichick knows something we don't.
Maybe he likes his team. Oh, yeah. I've been told by a Twitter user that will not be named here, stop whispering as a as sort of an affect on the show. They can't hear it. So I'm going to stop.
Or you could just speak up when you whisper. That's.
I was like, do I ever
theatrical whisper.
I was like, do I ever do that? And then it just happened. So I guess that happens.
And while we're on Pat's Corner, our old friend, the Sentient Powerade bottle, Zolak.
Yeah.
We heard yesterday him getting amped up after your boy, Butte, nearly got his second foot down. What we didn't hear was Scott Zolak of WEEI getting a little fired up, a little pot kettle black about the head coach of the Eagles, Nick Sirianni. Let's listen in.
I don't know if Philly has their complete cheerleading squad figured out, but if they got an opening, Sirianni could step in. I mean, he's got the towel waving. He's for head coach.
The receiver did not get the second foot in bounds. The pass is incomplete. It's a turnover on downs. It's first down for Philadelphia.
It was a little judgy as for a head coach. It's like, here's the ultimate cheerleader in the history of broadcasting. Come on now.
He knows his audience.
I mean, this is the day after show. Only the most trenchant news and analysis from around the league. Our weekly Zolak.
I don't know how much we're going to hear of him this year, to be quite honest. So take advantage while we can.
We hear from him more when they lose.
That's true. That's true. But you know what? There was a long time, Greggy, on this podcast where we were hearing from him a lot of wins.
That's true. Yeah, I'm owed about a decade of misery.
Arthur Smith, speaking of misery, fantasy owners, they take what the Falcons do on draft day, and they say to themselves, well, obviously they're going to build their offense around these top 10 picks they keep using. And then the head coach goes in different directions in terms of his scheming. And Arthur Smith, already it's on his radar that this is a talking point around the Falcons, that somebody like Drake London has 0 catches, that Kyle Pitts cannot get the ball in this offense. Even Bijan Robinson not leading his team in carries yesterday. All this stuff is baffling to some people. But when a reporter asked Arthur Smith, how is it that Desmond Ridder, the quarterback, could have more catches than Drake London, the top 10 pick, Arthur Smith and his mustache, he wasn't about it.
If I were to tell you that Desmond would have more receptions than Drake and you'd win, would you have believed me, A? And B, would
Zach,
you think?
here, I'm gonna, not to be rude, I'm going to cut you off. Let the fantasy guys worry
I
about
love it.
that.
That's a
You know,
point.
we got to clean some things up.
I love it.
We can all be better at our spacing. And the targets is the most misunderstood thing in the National Football League. There's progressions, there's spacing. If somebody's underneath is not right, that's the stuff where I'm a little irritated as a coach that we had to fix at halftime. And that's on me. It's on everybody. And we don't care. Drake London doesn't care. All we care about is 1-0.
Drake London cares, by the way. But okay.
Well, he might care, but I think that
Kyle Pitts cares.
he's completely in the right. That's fine. I'm glad that fantasy.
What do you mean he's completely in the right?
Oh, is he supposed to cater to fantasy?
No,
fans?
forget about fantasy. But the more the idea is, you have these wildly talented skill players. At what point are you going to find a way to get them actively involved? It's very early in the season. I'm very excited to see.
It'll happen.
It should.
It happened last year with Drake London.
And the two great receivers, you'll see it. Look every week at the targets. He could talk about progressions, and he knows way more about football than I do. But they find ways to get the ball to funnel targets to your top guys. And it's interesting to me that just hasn't happened with these high-profile pass catchers that they have on the roster.
If you contrast it to what Mike McDaniel has done in a regular season plus one game with his star wideouts, I understand. I'm saying he's right about the fantasy part. That's in giving.
Yeah, but no one's arguing about that. That was a nice little gig.
But it's that was if he hadn't answered the fantasy question, we wouldn't be talking.
Well, we don't even know what part B was. Zach, probably I don't know who Zach is, but
don't go with A and B in general.
I was trying to think who's a Zach that covers the Falcons. Can't think of one. Can't find one. I think he made a mistake going with the A and the B at that point. He was spinning once Arthur Smith cut him off. He's trying to get B in. We'll never know what B is. But the thing where Smith lost me a little bit, though, is Drake London cares. He cares a lot. His future money and livelihood. He wants to. Over the long haul, that actually could be a little bit of an issue. We saw it in Baltimore in the Gregg Roman era that guys like Kyle Pitts, Drake London and stuff, you do want to make sure that they're involved in getting some numbers because they're human beings. They want their
makes
numbers.
the offense better. But a big part of this is, do they have the quarterback to facilitate such a thing as well? And that's the beautiful thing about football. The season will unfurl, and we will learn more. More coming.
More Flotsam. More Jetsam.
Jetsam, Flotsam, Flotsam, Jetsam. Send it in. The ATN podcast at gmail.com. Coming up later tonight in your feed, you'll see the Monday Night Football recap. Jets, Bills. Oh, my goodness. I am nervous. And, yes, for you NFL Plus subscribers and DAZN subscribers, you will get our first game of the week breakdown, and we'll do Dolphins-Chargers. Sounds good.
This was good. I mean, we had a couple of doubters. Speaking of Nick Bosa and the haters out there, you know who you are, Drew Kleinman. You said around the NFL podcast.
How about Sessy's right here?
Can't do anything short.
But
You
we're
can't
at 31
do anything.
minutes
We're
right
at
now.
31 minutes, and this thing, we're
What an
landing it.
What an achievement.
We're doing it.
We were at 30.
We did it.
So thank you, everybody. We'll do this every Monday. And keep listening, keep subscribing, and don't worry. If it feels like too much, no show tomorrow. So you have plenty of time to catch up.
It's not too much.
So until then, until Monday Night Football, heed the call.